While 2020 might be remembered for many world events, COVID-19 is the unambiguous common denominator that took human life on the planet. The coronavirus forced us into isolation and lockdowns, introduced new concepts and words, rendered old habits moot, and turned life upside down. Masks became mandatory and with time became something of a fashion statement. COVID-19 also showed how, in the absence of evidence-based information about the new virus, conspiracy theories can proliferate and find fertile ground among those who are ready to believe, oftentimes to the detriment of society. And that shows us all that we need to work on our critical thinking skills. The first step is to understand that criticism is not critical thinking. And this is our list of the top 10 coronavirus fakes of 2020. Number 1, chip implants. You will be implanted with a chip and you will go straight to hell. Thousands of social media users disseminated fake videos claiming that people would be implanted with chips during coronavirus vaccinations. Lovers of conspiracy theories fell hook, line, and sinker for the myth that the pandemic was organized so that all those who would be vaccinated would be automatically chipped. Even now, fake evidence continues to be presented claiming that the COVID-19 vaccine contains a chip. In fact, the chip pictured in the original fake claim video is a microchip used for pet identification, and the kind of technology that the chip myth propagates has not even yet been developed. Recently, chips were again mentioned as even being present in COVID tests, another fake that was debunked by a simple reverse image search using the TinEye website. The photograph pictured in these fake claims was a nanostructured glass chip smaller than a grain of rice used to accelerate electrons. Number 2 on our list, Bill Gates. 2020 was largely spent looking for someone to blame for the COVID pandemic. Microsoft founder, billionaire philanthropist Bill Gates seems to have gotten the brunt of the blame, becoming the subject of conspiracies falsely linking him to the coronavirus's origins. He was accused of the most bizarre things, from planning the pandemic as far back as 8 years ago to having connections with the pharmaceutical companies developing a COVID-19 vaccine, as well as laboratories in Wuhan, China. Social media was also awash with posts claiming that Gates was building electronic concentration camps, but even this was not the end of the outrageous things that he and his family would be accused of in 2020. Gates said in a call with reporters, quote, "It's almost hard to deny this stuff because it's so stupid or so strange that even to repeat it gives it credibility." Number 3 on our list, quarantine. 2020 passed in social isolation, lockdown, and periodically closed borders. Americans were not allowed to travel to EU countries. Other countries closed their borders to both incoming and outgoing movement. Collins Dictionary named lockdown as the 2020's word of the year. The word has become a staple in Ukraine as well. Quarantine also became the topic of many a fake, such as the one claiming that the World Bank was extending its quarantine until March of 2025. In fact, March 2025 is the expected closing date of the World Bank's COVID-19 Strategic Preparedness and Response Program, dealing with the negative consequences of the pandemic for the world economy and health. There were also claims that the virus would be overcome without quarantine and social distancing, citing Belarus as a good example of such an approach. In the face of the Ukrainian government's complete absence of clear management and government planning for bringing the pandemic under control, rumors ran amok claiming Ukraine's lockdown would be extended until next spring, and even that Ukraine would be in lockdown for the next 2 years. Number 4 on our list of top 10 COVID fakes from 2020 is medical masks. Medical masks not only became an important part of our 2020 life, they also gave rise to countless fakes and disinformation stories. Conspiracy theorists continuously droned on that masks would not protect anyone from the coronavirus, claiming this information came from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, and further alleging that the majority of people who had died from the coronavirus had regularly worn masks. Suddenly, masks were said to carry staph infections, fungal infections, and even death. Masks became political. Wearing or not wearing one immediately identified you as believing in science and wanting to take precautions to protect yourself and others from the coronavirus, or being a conspiracy theorist, believing that masks are nonsense and wearing them would make you choke. Mask denial, of course, had nothing to do with real science and scientific research. Number 5, 5G technology. If you hadn't heard of 5G technology prior to 2020, you certainly learned about it last year. Certain media and websites peddled the 5G coronavirus conspiracy theory day and night, claiming that there is scientific proof that cell phone usage and cell phone towers cause COVID-19. 5G waves are so powerful that they are capable of killing bees, trees, and even people. The hysteria accompanying these outrageous theories got so bad that people started burning mobile phone towers in the United Kingdom. Telecoms engineers were attacked while laying down new mobile lines. Several people were even jailed for destroying public infrastructure. In fact, over the last few decades, no scientific institution has been able to prove that mobile telecommunications impact negatively on the environment or human health. Number 6, COVID testing. In 2020, we all discovered PCR testing. That's the diagnostic coronavirus test that detects the virus's genetic material. One of the most accurate tests which detects the coronavirus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, is the PCR test, and it became the topic of a wave of misinformation, starting with the claim that the test is a global hoax and is scientifically meaningless. Such tests are used to collect the DNA of Ukrainians so as to control them, according to one fake narrative, while another disinformation narrative insisted that the PCR test could not differentiate between a regular cold, the coronavirus, the flu, or other viral infections. One fake circulated on social media reached an apotheosis of absurdity, claiming that COVID-19 test procedure was analogous to an ancient Egyptian punishment for slaves. Number 7 on our list, folk medicine. In 2020, folk and home medicine became a tool to combat COVID-19. All sorts of recipes touted as protecting us from the coronavirus were floated on social media, and for inexplicable reasons, the one item that consistently appeared as a panacea was bicarbonate of soda, which we were told to use as an inhalant or to drink it mixed with water with a little lemon and drink it hot. Clearly, there is no scientific proof of the effectiveness of these home cures, and overuse of any home remedy without consulting a doctor can be dangerous. In any case, after consuming so much bicarbonate of soda, there was probably a lot less indigestion going around. Number 8 on the list of top 10 coronavirus fakes from 2020 is biological warfare. Along with pronouncements about the coronavirus being a biological weapon, which different countries were using to their benefit to change the world order, the chemtrail theory about the coronavirus also made an appearance. The chemtrail conspiracy theory claims that contrails, that's the condensation trails or miniature clouds formed by airplane engine exhaust, are actually chemical trails consisting of chemical or biological agents left in the sky by aircraft for, of course, nefarious purposes. COVID conspiracy enthusiasts maintain that the contrails contain chemicals which bring on symptoms identical to those of, the coronavirus. While NASA has funded several projects to study the connections between the environment and SARS-CoV-2 and how the environment can affect the spread of the virus, another U.S. agency, the Environmental Protection Agency, has debunked the chemtrail theory by putting out a contrail fact sheet. Number 9, vaccines. Death from the COVID-19 vaccine was another fake narrative that sprang to life in 2020. Pro-Kremlin media unleashed a wave of stories claiming that American doctors had arrived in Ukraine secretly to try out a COVID vaccine on Ukrainian soldiers. StopFake debunked this misinformation, but that did not stop new fakes from appearing, this time claiming that Ukrainians had fallen ill from the vaccine developed by Johnson & Johnson. But in fact, when these fake stories surfaced, no COVID-19 clinical trials had even begun in Ukraine. And finally, number 10 on the list of top 10 COVID fakes from 2020, the virus is safe. Despite daily reports of ever-growing numbers of deaths from COVID-19 throughout the world, particularly during the second surge of infections, fake claims denying the extreme infectious severity of the coronavirus continue to circulate, alleging that the virus does not kill and is simply like the flu. Stories claiming that autopsies found no traces of COVID-19 in the bodies of those who died from the virus are touted as proof of the coronavirus hoax and continue to make the rounds on social media, along with persistent claims that no one has actually died from the virus and no vaccine is necessary because the virus will simply go away on its own. That's it for this week. Be vigilant, stay safe, and stay on the lookout for fakes. Remember, washing your hands, wearing a mask, and social distancing will in fact protect you from the coronavirus. But more importantly, critical thinking will protect you from Russian disinformation. And as always, if you see some disinformation about Ukraine, send it to us for a truth autopsy. I'm Marko, Suprun, and this is StopFake. Thanks for watching.